It is a brave new world in mobile messaging, and here to talk about that is Steve Zitnik, who is the Executive Vice President and CTO at Interop Technologies, and certainly from a carrier perspective, it's a bit tenuous right now, you might say, Steve, but you have some solutions of interest.
Yeah. What we've been doing is talking to our operator partners. One of the concerns that they definitely have is the threat to their existing messaging revenue from some of the newer entrants into the market who are using app-based messaging clients in order to facilitate messaging, many times free to end user.
Free, right.
Yeah, exactly. So the operators that we've been speaking to are very concerned about that, obviously. What they'd like to be able to do is offer the same rich set of services, IM-like services, file transfers, group messaging, things along those lines, in order to compete, I guess, with the over-the-top providers. One of the things that the operators have been looking at quite a bit is the RCS and RCSE suite of messaging protocols. The problem we've been facing in rolling that out in the operator space is that it requires an IMS core. And an IMS core is a very large endeavor for the operator to manifest in the network. It takes time and, quite frankly, is a fairly expensive endeavor.
Money.
Yeah, it takes some money. Yeah. So what we did was trying to enable and help our operator partners is take a look at the IMS infrastructure itself. And when you do that, you recognize that what's actually necessary in the IMS infrastructure in order to facilitate messaging is a very, very small part of the IMS overall infrastructure. So if IMS is bigger than a bread basket, what we're talking about is a couple of slices of bread. You know. So what we've been able to do is bake that essentially into the actual RCS platform itself so that we can help the operators in the time to market while they're rolling out their IMS infrastructure to get some of these rich communication suite protocols and functionality into the hands of their subscribers.
So what about the competition, though? And you talked about this.
Sure.
There's a price involved here, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a revenue stream. How do you, as a carrier, or at least from the Interop perspective, how do they protect that revenue stream when there are some alternatives available that could very likely threaten that?
Yeah, and I think the operators are still in a very strong position in that regard. One of the nice things about the operator space versus the over-the-top space. The over-the-top players tend to be very closed communities. So you're either talking Apple to Apple or Samsung to Samsung or GroupMe to GroupMe. So it's a closed community, as we know about SMS, for instance, right? One of the, probably the biggest thing that makes that the king of data apps still is the ubiquity of that network. I don't need to know anything about you. I need to know what technology you're on, what carrier you're on or operator you're on, or anything about you other than the fact that I've got your addressable number. And it just works. Operators have the chance right now, as they're rolling these RCS clients out and network functionality out, to maintain that ubiquity. Indeed, that's one of the things that we've also baked into this platform is backwards compatibility with legacy devices, so that I still don't need to know who you are or anything about you in order to use my rich communication suite, even if you happen to be on a Motorola Razr from 5 or 6 years ago.
That's a huge point too.
Yeah,
the fact
it is.
That you are enabling, a fairly large sector of your marketplace, basically, not to get left in the dust.
Right, exactly.
You can bring them up with current technology and allow them to keep using those devices that they've had for some time.
I think operators also have a desire, I guess, to move the messaging infrastructure off of the circuit switch network and onto the IP network, right? Yeah. And what we've been able to come up with is a way to be able to do that while your new clients come out, new handsets, normal turnover, they're RCS enabled, they stay on IP. But then still, as you point out, maintain that backward compatibility so that anything that I've used to doing with my messaging client, I can still do exactly the same thing.
Well, if anybody doubts about the messaging business, some of the stats we released this week, 2.2 trillion texts, talking about billions a day here in the United States, and of course the messaging platform continues to grow, and with it does your business as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for being with us.
Absolutely.
Good deal.
Thanks for having me.